Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another JuliaHealth monthly meeting. I'm Jacob Zelko, the leader of the JuliaHealth work group. Super glad to have everyone here this month. We have a lot to cover this today. We got an exciting guest speaker lined up a little later. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about all the things we have going on. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead, share my screen, and we can just dive into everything. All right, can everyone see my screen all right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Also, I realize I forgot to change the date here, but today is September 26th, 2024. So yeah, we'll go ahead and just dive right into everything. As always, we'll take a couple minutes here to pause if there is anyone who is new joining this meeting for the first time, or if you've been away for a long time from joining these meetings and want to reintroduce yourself, feel free to introduce yourself. You can give a quick introduction just about who you are, your background, and maybe what brought you to the JuliaHealth meeting today. So I'll go ahead and pause. So if anyone wants to introduce themselves, no pressure if you do not want to, but feel free to go ahead and do so. I'll pause right now and feel free to unmute and say a couple words about yourself.
Hi. Did you want me to unmute the microphone? Just making
Yes,
sure.
you're
Oh,
coming
yes.
through.
Yes. Okay. Hi everyone. I am Nisarg. I am a research student at Trent University in Canada, and I finished my master's in data science recently. Right now, I'm working on a sociology project with a professor while I'm like taking a survey about all the existing databases and welfare institutions in my city. And yeah, I wanted to learn how to work with Julia and contribute to the health data set, the health side of the Julia programming. And I was here just to learn what I can do.
Awesome. Well, welcome. And did you say it was Toronto, or what city is it in Canada?
The city of Peterborough is like right outside of the Greater Toronto area. So it's like
Oh,
a
okay.
mid-sized city, 125,000 people living here. But yeah, I'm currently doing research here.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you so much.
I'll go next. Hi everyone, my name is Jared. I am a data scientist with the Utah Department of Health and Human Services in their Medicaid division. I've been slowly learning Julia. I come from an R background, but I'm excited to see all of the different tools and maybe contribute to some of the development in the Julia Health organization using Julia. So, yep.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining, Jared. And if I remember correctly, Jared, aren't you working on like a rural mining tool, or am I crazy there?
Yeah, no, that's my package. Yeah, so I'm working on a package called ruleminer.jl that integrates a lot of rule and pattern mining algorithms. So things like a priori, eclat, FP growth. Um, yeah, it's a little slow going because I'm in a busy season at work right now, but yeah, looking forward to continuing to work on that package.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Jared. Glad to have you here.
My name is Ashton Harris. I'm an analyst for Tufts Medicine, which is in the Boston area. I work in the informatics team there, and we predominantly use Julia there.
Awesome, Ashlyn. It's great to have you. It's great to see you again. Ashlyn and I go back a couple of years, so it's nice to see Ashlyn coming here to really help you. Super exciting. Um, okay, I'll pause just for one more couple seconds here.
Hi, I guess I can go next. My name is Min Ung Son. My first time here. I have been using Julia since version 0.6, so it's quite a long time. But you know, I use it off and on. Okay, I'm mostly doing research in health services research, health outcomes, and health disparities. I'm currently at the University of Kentucky.
Wow, wonderful to have you. It's so great to have you here, and hoping to hear more about your work sometime in the future. Thank you for joining. Okay, I think that is it for new attendee introductions. Lots of new people today. That's super exciting. Glad to have so many new faces coming. Let me go ahead, jump back here. So thank you everyone, so much for joining today. And carrying on, so the monthly contributor roundup. This is again to recognize any new contributors I've identified through the JuliaHealth ecosystem. If there's anyone that I'm missing from this list, as always, please reach out to me because I want to hype people up in the JuliaHealth community. But the first person that I want to highlight is Hitarth Shah. They have been working very diligently on helping to improve in add some new functionalities to the JuliaHealth blog, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. They've opened up several issues as well as several associated pull requests to make that blog even better. And they've also are in the process of writing their first ever blog post for the JuliaHealth blog. There's one more thing that I forgot to mention that Hitarth was able to do, and that was setting up a new dashboard for tracking visits of who's coming to the JuliaHealth blog. So that way it can help us as a community figure out what people are really interested in seeing more about from the JuliaHealth community. A little bit more about that in just a couple minutes. So moving on to just some highlights of what has been going on lately within the community. So I believe this doesn't apply to so many people anymore as we're coming into the final weeks here of Google Summer of Code. But just as a friendly reminder, your projects are due soon. Wearing my Google Summer of Code co-administrator hat for a second. If you need any extensions or are running into any problems, please let me know. I want to see projects be successful, both from the mentor side as well as the mentee side. So just a quick reminder there. And then, as I mentioned, we have several new updates for the JuliaHealth blog. So actually, I'll just go ahead and jump over here to show you what I want to talk about with the JuliaHealth blog. So we actually have several new posts for the blog this month. So since we last met, I believe back in August 29th or so, we've had 3 new blog submissions from Google Summer of Code contributors. So I'm just going to, I'll pick on Michaela here, who is one of our Google Summer of Code small project contributors. So if you want to read about the various sort of projects these Google Summer of Code students were able to get up to, please check out the blog. Very exciting times as a lot of students and otherwise are submitting blog posts to the JuliaHealth blog. Actually, right now, I'll go ahead and give kind of a sneak peek to one other blog post that is going to be published soon. Monica, who is one of the co-mentors for Google Summer of Code, is submitting a blog post here soon on her mentoring and co-mentoring experiences within Google Summer of Code. So that way, if anyone is curious about Google Summer of Code or getting involved in Google Summer of Code in the future, you can check out her blog, which I'll announce when it's published, to learn more about how to get involved with Google Summer of Code and what a mentor-mentee relationship might look like if you're interested in joining that program in the future. So just a huge, shout out to everyone who has been contributing to Google Summer of Code, the JuliaHealth blog, who's been working on Google Summer of Code for the JuliaHealth project, and for people who are contributing. So super exciting there. And then the last thing that I wanted to show is, I mentioned this briefly, but Hitarth, and this is maybe a little hard to look at, Hitarth also is pivotal in helping provide support for what's called Goat Counter, which is a nice little visit tracking software, open source software for the JuliaHealth blog right now, so you can actually see how people are visiting the blog posts over the past couple of weeks here. We've had almost 50 visits to the blog, which is pretty exciting just because this is really our first month of having the blog be publicly available. I'm excited for this. I'll be probably myself writing a blog post about how we can be using these statistics for future purposes, either for building out the community, helping to highlight what maybe we should be focusing on or going towards as researchers or software engineers in the JuliaHealth space. And yeah, I'm just excited to take this forward. So I just wanted to take a second and highlight the work being done here. And let me come back over to the slideshow. And just kind of a last little bit of updates. I wanted to put out a call for volunteers. If anyone is interested in growing the JuliaHealth community, want to gain further leadership experience and learnings about various aspects of health research across both the JuliaHealth and broader health informatics and health research community, we are looking for volunteers. Particularly, we're looking for folks to help us with running these monthly meetings and organizing various agendas and directions these meetings, as well as the JuliaHealth community might want to focus on and take, as well as looking at reviewing various pull requests and issues, maybe from the JuliaHealth blog, the JuliaHealth website, or other sorts of associated organizational maintenance that needs to happen across the community and ecosystem. So if you're interested about getting involved with open source, want to learn more about the JuliaHealth community, or just want to get your some experience with how to start contributing to an open source community like this, please reach out over Slack or here on Zoom. Happy to discuss further, what this volunteering might look like. And moving ahead, just to the last big announcement here. If any new papers, this is a new part of this community monthly meeting that I want to be highlighting in the future. And that is what I call our research roundup. So in the future, if you have any papers or conferences, submissions that you're submitting work to, please let me know. But I wanted to highlight two papers that are forthcoming. The first paper is the physiological signal analysis in open science based on the Julia language and associated software. That was written by George Datsaris and myself for Frontiers in Network Physiology. It made extensive use of a variety of different tools across the Julia ecosystem, but I want to specifically highlight and elevate Adam Wozinski's work in neuroanalyzer.jl. Adam has created a really fantastic, I would say, general purpose brain neuro signal processing toolbox for looking at various brain signals such as EEG and beyond. Really great tool. We highlighted that work a little bit in this paper, and that will be forthcoming in Frontiers in Network Physiology. And then secondly, I and Justin Mangiarides, who's a professor here at Northeastern University, we submitted a paper on a generalized tool to assess algorithmic fairness in disease phenotype definitions. This is focused on health equity and health disparities in the context of observational health research. And that was just submitted to American Medical Informatics Association. So stay tuned to hear more about that. But with that being said, that is it for news and announcements of things that I wanted to share. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen for a second. And give me just one moment here. Excuse me. And actually, I will jump back over to Zoom here. And I would like to turn it over to our guest speaker. So we actually have Reem Al-Hajjal joining us here today. I believe, Reem, you are in France. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm in France.
You're in France. Okay, so
Yeah.
we have Reem joining us. Reem is going to be presenting on some of her work that she did this summer regarding survival analysis. Reem has a background bachelor's in mathematics and has completed 2 master's degrees in statistics for data science as well as decision making. So Reem, I'll go ahead and give you permission to share your screen. And just one second. and I will let you take it away. You should be able to share your screen now, Rain.
Yeah. I just wanted to make a little introduction first.
Yeah.
I'm going to be talking about a package that I created during the summer during my internship. There is a more detailed, I'm going to be giving like an example on how to use the package today, and there's a more detailed, longer presentation that was given during JuliaCon that can be found on YouTube as well. And yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. It's almost the same slides. Directly, I'm gonna go into the example. So I don't know if you can see it.
Yes, everything is coming through. Okay.
Okay, so I don't know if you're familiar with, if anyone's familiar with survival analysis in the first place, but survival analysis is basically dealing with data that is censored. So we're taking in the time until a certain event happens, and where patients are not always seen until the event happens. So there's the possibility of a patient being censored. So we don't know what exactly happened during this time because they exited the study for different multiple reasons. So for example, in the data set that we're going to be working with, we're taking a very typical data set that is used in most literature, and it's called the COLREG data set. And it comprises of around 6,000 patients diagnosed with colon or rectal cancer. And there are 7 variables that indicate age, year, and sex. Status is going to be for censorship. So if the patient is censored or not. So if the event was observed or not. The event here is, we're talking about death because it's survival analysis. So we are observing the death of a patient. The follow-up time or survival time, cancer stage, and cancer site. And it's sourced from the Slovenian Cancer Registry. And what net survival is, or relative survival analysis, which is the main field that is that the package is constructed upon, it takes a reference rate table, which is here the Slovenian mortality table, and it compares the patients from the cancer data set to the general population mortality table. So it is expected of a normal person. So what a mortality rate is expected of a normal person, undiagnosed with cancer person, and people from the cancer data set. So the mortality table includes information on age, year, and sex. And with these 3 variables, we are able to identify the patients from the data set and their expected mortality rate on a populational level. And it's extracted from official census mortality rates. So when we're dealing with any sort of data, the first thing is we're going to take a look at the variables and what they're telling us. And so here we can tell that most of the patients are aged between 60 and 80 years old. And the follow-up time, so the survival time, takes a very, very quick dip. So within the first 5 years, most patients are passing away. And now to look at it from a net survival point of view or a relative survival point of view, we're going to apply the POR/PORME estimator. And the POR/PORME estimator is basically estimating the excess mortality rate. And for the excess mortality rate is the mortality rate specific to people with the given cancer or the given disease, compared to the populational mortality rate that is given from the mortality table. And so with this interface, it resembles exactly the one that already exists in R, because there's a package that does the exact same thing in R. And so the interface resembles exactly that. That way, new users can be easily accustomed to using Julia, because it's almost the same as the code in R that already exists. So by running this, we get a table with the net survival probability in daily intervals. So 1 day after the study, what is their mortality rate, 2 days, 3 days, etc. And for a better visualization, we can tell that the graph on the left looks a little bizarre. So within around 11 years, the survival probability starts increasing, and then our confidence intervals are way too large. This also is apparent in the R version. This isn't an issue from Julia or from the package. This is an issue with the estimator. The estimator becomes less accurate with time, because here we're going to actually see a bit more on the explanation here, but the hypothesis is that we are losing a lot of patients due to cancer, and so most patients are dying from other causes, and it's making our estimator a little unstable. And when we're focusing only on the first 5 years, we get a more coherent or logical survival probability that is constantly going down. And around 5 years, we're already at under 0.5 survival probability. So let's find out why this estimator is exactly losing its accuracy. And this is where we run a NESI function. A NESI function is a function that allows us to view the estimated lifetime and the estimated sample size. So what we're expecting to see people dying from other causes due to the mortality table, either in sample size or in lifetime. So for example, when we're separating our patients from young and old, we can see that around at the end of the study, we're expecting to lose almost 3,000 older patients and less than half of the younger patients. This is strictly based on populational data and not cancer, and not the cancer data. So what we're expecting if they didn't have cancer, how would the sample size look like? This is to prove, again, that older patients are the bigger majority of our study, and they're also dying from other causes, which is making our estimator less accurate because they're dying from other causes and not from the cancer. And so the estimator that calculates mortality based on the cancer is less accurate. Same thing here, when we're drawing it on a graph, we can see that the slope for the older patients is a lot stronger. So we choose to censor the data around 5 years because we still have enough data on the older and the younger patients as well. And to then again prove the loss of accuracy at around 11 years, we can tell that the expected years left for the two groups, for the older patients, we have around 10.2 years left. And so at around the 11-year mark, it becomes much less accurate because we have a lot less data. Another cool function in the package is the crude mortality function, which allows us to separate the causes of death in terms of mortality. So, for example, this is the output that we get from running this function, which is the crude mortality function. So out of the 64% patients that have died, which is the FO, so more overall mortality, out of the 64%, we have 53% that is due to the colorectal cancer and only 11% due to other causes. This is at the 5-year mark, and the specific time can be specified, and so we can check at any given point in time how much of the percentage of death is due to the cancer and how much is due to the population, to other causes, to any other cause. Lastly, we have a log rank type test that is also integrated into the package. And also its interface resembles a lot the one in R. So it allows new users to easily integrate or easily use the Julia version of it. It's the Grafeo test, which is specifically designed for relative survival analysis. And it allows us, just like any typical log rank type test, to check if the variable has significance to the study. So here we notice that the age and the stage of the cancer are relevant to the study. And the conclusion is a very elementary one, but it's more of an example to show how to use the package rather than an actual real example. Here, the conclusion is that the older and the more advanced the cancer stage is, the lower the risk of survival, which is very logical. And so in conclusion, I wanted to make a point on the JuliaServe organization that's on GitHub. And basically, this organization was created to house all packages related to survival analysis, not just relative survival analysis. And it's growing, it's expanding. We are adding as many packages as we can and as many functionalities to the packages as we can. Yeah, that's it. Just a little quick summary. There's the QR code, so you can check out the GitHub for the net survival package. And just a quick summary, survival analysis deals with censored data where the variable of interest is the time until a certain event occurs. Most of the time it's death, but it can be applied to a bunch of different fields. In some specific cases, the exact cause of death is unavailable or unreliable, which is why relative survival analysis was built or created in the first place. So our Julia implementation is much easier to read and more concise and faster than ours, which was the main interest in creating one in the first place. And we hope to expand the JuliaServe organization and to include as many helpful functionalities through it. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much for presenting today, Reem. This was fantastic. I guess I'll do like an emoji reaction clap. It's a little hard to clap on Zoom, but thank you so much for presenting today.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll open the floor here to if there's any questions from the community just about the software or just survival analysis in Julia in general. I'll start maybe with like a smaller question, which is, I know that you had worked on this, over the past several months or so. I guess, my question is maybe where do you see maybe netsurvival.jl going in the future, or, what work remains to be done, I guess, kind of when it comes to your particular package?
Well, in net survival, there isn't really a lot to be done because research is there hasn't been a lot of contributions. It's mostly just the net survival estimators and the long-rank type tests that are associated. I guess any functionality that is suggested, we can try to implement it. But the main focus has been more on expanding the JuliaServe organization, where we're dealing more with a broader and less niche topic. So we're dealing with survival analysis, so how to make maybe Cox, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Cox models, how to make those faster or a bit more integrated within our interface, because there are other packages that are included that help facilitate everything within the organization. And we have a rate tables package as well that provides different mortality tables from different countries. So any contributions to that would be really cool.
Awesome. And I will open up the floor to if there's any other questions. If anyone has any questions here, feel free to unmute and you can go ahead and ask a question.
I have a question about the formula macro.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not too familiar with R, but what is it doing? Or if you can explain it a little bit more.
Yes, so basically it's defining a formula. So we're taking the survival and the status and the time that are defined within a I'm gonna share my screen again, just hold on. So when we're defining a formula here, we're taking here serve is just it doesn't really do anything. But we're saying that in a survival context, we are taking variables such as time and status. And so kind of like a Y, and it's being formulated within the variable. So so coefficients. So I I don't know how to explain this in a clearer sense, but it's basically trying to
Is it
formulate
like you're
the
trying to
time.
fit age with
Yes.
variables time and status?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And in the formula macro, you basically identify that like wiggly symbol and split it in two, or
I didn't necessarily understand the question. The squiggly thing is integrated within the formula macro. It wasn't something that we defined.
oh, I see. Okay.
Okay. So kind of like the formula macro takes a right hand input and a left hand input and a right hand input, and those are defined as like left to the squiggly thing and right to the squiggly thing. These are defined within the macro cell. And this is the typical formulation on R and on Julia.
Oh, cool. Thanks. I guess it's something from stats models.jl, no?
Yes.
Or... Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know. Thanks.
Okay, I think we have time for maybe just one more question. If anyone has a final question that they want to ask Reem. All right. I think that is it for questions. Well, Reem, again, thank you so much for joining today's call and being able to present. This was fantastic.
For
Yeah.
having me. And if anyone ends up with questions or checks out the organization and has anything to add, you can join me by email or even send a message on GitHub or on Slack. Anything is welcome. So yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, and I tried, Reem, I dropped the links to all the GitHub org.
Yeah, I saw in the chat. I saw in the chat. That's perfect.
Okay, yeah, and if you want to throw anything else in there, just as we go on, feel free to do so. So if people want to reach out to you or people in the JuliaCon organization, whatever we can do, we want to keep seeing this grow.
Yeah,
so this is
yeah.
fantastic. So, okay, well, thank you so much, Reem. And with that, we'll go ahead on to our next agenda topics that we have planned for today. So let me go ahead. I'll take back control, sharing screen here, and we'll go back to here. So with the last 20-ish minutes or so, we just have some more or less planning open conversations to talk about today. There's two main topics that I want to see if we have time to discuss. We might not be able to discuss in depth everything, but we can see what we can do. The first topic is the JuliaHealth Fall Hackathon, and then the following topic will be the idea of this year, or for JuliaCon 2025, having a JuliaHealth mini symposium for the first time ever. But because the JuliaHealth Fall Hackathon is coming up sooner, October 6th to October 7th, I figure we should talk about that a little bit first, and then we can switch over to talking about a symposium submission. So with that being said, so to introduce this topic of a JuliaHealth Fall Hackathon, really myself and Krishna Bogankar, who I don't think Krishna was able to join today, we are going to be doing some JuliaHealth hacking in person in San Francisco. Not this Sunday, but next Sunday, October 6th to Monday, October 7th. We'll be kind of doing it in a very low-key way. We'll have the exact times sorted out here within the next couple of days to say when Krishna and I will be working on things. But pretty much what we'll be doing is a very low-key introduction into just hacking on various aspects of JuliaHealth. So I wanted to discuss maybe what we would like to cover. So, for example, there's a lot of different things that we could cover, such as tasks across the greater JuliaHealth organization. If anyone has any ideas for quote quick projects where you just want to put together a quick proof of concept prototype and just want to know where to look for packages, or if we have any of these functionalities already existing, maybe Krishna and I can also help with that. Krishna and I will be looking at using things like ipums.jl, which uses the census microdata from the US-based IPUMS organization that not only has data for the United States, but also census microdata across the entire globe. Really useful for anything from social determinants of health data to things such as demographic information about populations here in the US and the globe. So Krishna and I are going to be using that and looking at putting together maybe a quick prototype proof of concept study around ipums.jl, survey.jl, and maybe some other things thrown in there. But yeah, so I wanted to open the floor for if anyone has any ideas about what they might want to hack on during these couple days, and if there's any ways that we can support you within the JuliaHealth community here. So I will pause for a second and ask if anyone has any ideas, any thoughts, and we can go from there.
What about moving the documentation of some of the packages of Julia Health to BytePress?
Ooh, that's a great idea. And actually, maybe I should write. I should maybe write some of these down. Let's see. I'll make a copy here. I think that's a great idea, Carlos. Let me write that down. So, brainstormed ideas. Okay. No, that's a great idea because there's so many packages that have documentation, but yeah, it's still not quite. It's not unified yet. And for people who are not aware of Documenter BytePress, let me show you what that looks like. Actually, let me disable my dark reader here. So this is Documenter BytePress. It's basically the new quote new tradition of documentation within the Julia community that people want to check out. And it's a really nice, winsome tool that not only has better documentation that you can deploy your packages to, but also has much better integrated searching. So say, for example, if I want to search a tutorial, it gives you much better inputs than the traditional Documenter websites for documentation across Julia packages. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. And it can just be like a hackathon of, everyone just goes crazy, just migrating various packages from the organization to Documenter BytePress. That could be fun. Any other thoughts or ideas?
Hey, Jacob, I also joined. Sorry.
Oh, hey, Krishna, you're here. Great.
Yep.
This is perfect timing, Krishna. We're actually just talking about brainstorming ideas for the hackathon.
Right, great.
So Carlos had the idea about moving documentation packages to Documenter BytePress just across, the community. And now we're just thinking of other ideas if anyone has any other suggestions.
Oh, okay. I guess the blog, we've been working on the blog as well. So if anybody wants to even contribute blog posts.
Let's see. Yeah. Does anyone have any ideas for like blogs that might be interested in writing? We'd be definitely happy to support anyone if they want to write anything. I know for me, one thing that I want to do, see if we have time to do it, is I'd love to move so we do actually have a Julia Health website separate from the blog. I think I'd like to, I don't know what I want to do exactly. I'm still working out what I want to do exactly with the website, but I'd like to somehow combine the website with the blog in some meaningful way. Because if you go to the blog right now, we're starting to get additional pages of an about page or things like that, where it's starting to become kind of like the go-to place for Julia Health related information. But also, if you notice on the website here, we list out this list actually is an automated list. It gets built with GitHub Actions of all the different packages from within the Julia Health organization. We have meeting notes and just some other things here. We also have related community organizations, which I think is great to highlight. So it would be great if in some way we could somehow combine the website and the blog. I'm just not entirely sure how to do it. So maybe that would be a great hackathon project too.
Hey, sorry to interrupt during mid presentation, but I had a idea. So right now, when you go to Julia Health website, there is no way you can go to the Julia Health blog website or vice versa. So I think we should at least start by connecting, like having just a link basically between the two, so one can, yeah.
That's a
And
great idea.
maybe we could also improve the looks of the Julia Health website too. I can make some mock-up. I don't
Yeah.
know if people will like it or not, but yeah, I can try something. Yeah. And so, if anybody has some ideas, feel free to send me a message in Slack or somewhere on my GitHub, wherever you want. Yeah. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, because I definitely agree with you. If you notice, like the Julia Health website, pretty minimal. And then the Julia Health blog over here, it's blue. It's not quite the same. So I agree. When, for example, I was putting stuff together and helping to, and I think when Chris and I were putting stuff together, we're not necessarily, I'm at least speaking for myself, I'm not necessarily the most amazing graphic designer when it comes to websites. So, if anyone has any ideas of making it look just better aesthetically, then, I'm all for that for sure. And I think that's a great idea.
Well, I'm not sure if this is for the hackathon, but maybe it's time to remove the dummy post in the blog now.
Yeah, or at least make it more useful. Because what we could do with that is it could turn into like a, here's how to write your first blog post, or maybe like your FAQ of if you want to write a blog post for Julia, like the Julia Health blog, here's what to keep in mind. Like here's how Julia works on the website or whatever.
Yeah, that would be nice to make it a tutorial on how to do a blog post.
Yeah. Yeah, because right now it's not very useful. It's just, I think we even have the word section spelled wrong in one of them. So it's not really great. It could be better. So room for improvement. All right, and we'll take one more minute here, and then we'll move on to the next topic.
There's another idea that, for example, now if someone wants to do a presentation and showcase what Julia Health is doing, there's not like an easy way to do it. besides maybe pointing to the website? Maybe we can do like an image with all the packages or something.
Oh, yeah, kind of like a graphic that says like, here's what's going on in medical imaging, or here's what's going on in like
Exactly.
observational health. I like that. Let's see.
Can we embed things like that in, the Julia packages? I mean, in the, like in the whatever the web, like the web front end or the web interface or the web thing. That would be like a JavaScript type thing, right? So like, is it possible to embed something like that?
Hmm.
I mean, I think it's a good idea. I think it's a really good idea. Like having like a mind map or something, anything, any kind of graphical thing was always nice. It's just a question of how to integrate it with the, the package that you use to generate the website. Should be a way to do it. I mean, it's just a matter of, do we got to write something custom, or can we use something? It's something
Yeah.
that.
Well, we'll find that out during the hackathon.
That's why it's called a hackathon.
That's why it's called a hackathon.
Not a finesse.
All right. Yeah, so we're kind of at time for what I wanted to discuss here. Definitely a lot of great ideas. I think a lot of ideas centralizing around documentation, like just making the community more cohesive on the web. I think that's a great number of things to do here. If you have additional ideas about what could go into the hackathon, please, feel free to reach out to me, like again in the health and medicine channel on the Julia Slack, or just post in the channel. We all would love to chat with you about ideas, or the discourse in the Zulip. If anyone has any further ideas about the fall hackathon, that'll be happening. Like I said, not this Sunday, but next Sunday and Monday, October 6th and October 7th. I'll also mention that this will, me and Krishna will be meeting up and hacking on things in person. But then we'll probably try, I think Sneha Pandey has volunteered to help run a GatherTown instance, as well as monitor the Slack here online. So if anyone wants to join virtually, me and Krishna, or at least myself, can join the GatherTown while Krishna and I are hacking in person. And then if anyone else wants to join, just asynchronously through GatherTown or Slack, I think Sneha will be helping with that, or we'll have that set up in some way. So I just wanted to say where this will be taking place. But yeah, so moving on to the last topic here. This was discussed at the end of last meeting about submitting a proposal for JuliaCon 2025 to have the first ever JuliaHealth mini symposium. This, I think it was Amanda Nicotina who came up with this idea. So a huge shout out to Amanda. And then I know, like in that discussion, I think everyone was, kind of thinking like, yeah, I think we could do something like that. So just to give some highlights about this, I think, JuliaCon 2025 will be hosted, this year in the USA. It'll be hosted in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is about maybe 3 to 5 hours away from Boston here. But yeah, so just to give some quick thoughts on this, and then we can talk about, just general, discussion around this idea. I did want to share that I posted this question to the general Julia Slack. So basically, the community had a lot of ideas about what we could be doing for a mini symposia submission. I will go ahead and link this discussion to the Zoom right now. But there's some great great perspectives from Carsten Bauer about the Julia high performance computing mini symposium and how he runs that. Also, we had Milan Klauer, who shared information about the basically Julia Geo mini symposium that they ran this year. So let me go ahead and share that in the chat. Give me just a second here. There we go. There we are. And I'd love to discuss some of those ideas that Milan and Carson were sharing at some point. But I want to discuss first, just some, I want to hear from our community what people are thinking of here. I put together some just general questions about what might be interesting, to kick off discussion here. And that is just, how should, maybe we, arrange this symposium in the sense of like, Carson was talking about his symposium lasting for about 3 hours. Also, Carson and Milan were both saying that they had, a number of volunteers involved. I think Milan was saying he had like, 3 to 5 volunteers involved with arranging everything. And then in terms of who we should have speaking, what maybe does anyone have any suggestions? And then since we're running a mini symposium, we'll have to solicit from the broader, not only Julia community, but just in general, health research community, what topics should we, be soliciting and asking for to hear about. So, I'll pause here and we'll kind of just have a general discussion like we did for the hackathon. But I want to go ahead and start, discussing some thoughts here. So if anyone would like to share about, maybe what they're thinking around this mini symposium submission, I'd love to hear it. So feel free to share. I'll go ahead and be quiet for a second.
Hi. One thing that I really enjoyed in the mini symposium in last JuliaCon was that there were talks about like what a little bit like a tutorial how to use a specific package, and then there was like a notebook, and this is how you can use this, and like with some showcases. And I think that was really interesting because people who were not from whatever background could follow along, so it wasn't something specific. So I think, of course, like having these tutorials here and there, like a presentation for something more general would be nice, would be interesting.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's specifically very important for the JuliaHealth community because I think we're still at that point of how do we onboard people into the JuliaHealth community is still somewhat of a question. We have these meetings and we have talks and various things going on, like, reaching out through YouTube or Discourse or even social media is great. But specifically, like how to get started with working with some of these tools, that's still, I think, a very hard problem that we're still working on as a community.
And also just as curiosity, just, I don't know, someone who was interested and has never worked with this before, and this is cool. Yeah. But yeah, like you said, these things are important.
Yeah, I think in that bullet point, one of the most important things would be to say why is this important and maybe just showing a cool example.
Also, one thing that I think we would also have to think about is the duration of the talks, because there were some talks that were 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then 30 minutes. I don't know how this is decided, but this is also something that we should keep in mind.
Yeah, I had heard that some symposium organizers have it. They kind of have a lot of buffer time that they incorporate into their talks, so that way, if anyone runs over, we don't have to worry about cutting people off because that wouldn't be fun. I agree with you. I think that's important too.
Well, we might have both, no? Like 30 minutes for the bigger packages or bigger talks, and we can have 5-minute presentations to showcase like as much as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What it would be, I think what we also have to know is when is the deadline for saying, hey, we're interested in coming up with the mini symposium. I saw on Slack that one guy came like really like with 3 days or something. But I think this is something that we have to know.
Yeah, we might not want to do it 3 days.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. Let me see. Does JuliaCon? I'm just gonna look really fast here. I don't know if they have solicitations yet. It does not appear so yet. That's a great question. If I can ask someone in the call right now, would anyone be willing to find out about when we should submit? Like when our deadline is? Would anyone be willing to ask around in the Julia Slack?
Maybe I can try, Kierulf.
Oh, thank you so much, Monica. Let's see. Yeah, because we definitely don't want to be in the 3 days before submission. Okay. I don't think that'd be ideal. And I do realize, actually, I do recognize that we're going slightly over time. So I'm going to go ahead and say I think we have a lot more to talk about here in the future. I just wanted to go ahead and get this discussion started. I think there's already a lot of good ideas happening around thinking around the symposium idea. Next, in the upcoming month in October, this will probably be our big ticket item where we'll, spend a lot more time thinking around how to make this symposia, happen. But yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone here who was able to join today. This was utterly fantastic. We'll see you all in forthcoming JuliaHealth meetings. The next meeting will be towards the end of October. And as always, if you want to be more involved in the JuliaHealth community, please join us on Slack, Zulip, or Discourse. We try to be active everywhere. But thank you, everyone, so much for coming for today's JuliaHealth monthly meeting. And I will see you all in the next meeting. Take care, everyone.
Okay. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
See you, everyone.
Bye.